we had something lined up here, but I guess we should realize that every Sunday night at like 10 o'clock p.m., NHL Network decides to drop their next version of a top 20 list. So this is what we're going to talk about here. Kris Letang ranked the number 6 defenseman by NHL Network. Horwat, before we get into anything else, is that higher or lower than you expected?
Right on.
Somehow
right on. Without doing any research and looking into it too far, it's about right on, because the NHL Network is going to be a little stingy. They're not going to put Kris Letang in the top 5, but they also know you can't drop him out of the top 10, especially not with the season he just had. Could have, let's be honest, let's say NHL players going to the Olympics, he could have made that team probably.
Yeah.
Judging by how there are not 5 Canadian defensemen in front of him, he could have made that team. That being said, we knew he wasn't going to get placed in front of a guy like Roman Josi after the season he had, or Cale Makar after winning the Stanley Cup. It's a good spot for him. It's like perfectly right where I would have put him. Maybe 5, because Charlie McAvoy's not a top 5 defenseman. Don't at me.
Yeah, honestly, and that's where I was thinking too. I was like, I don't understand the hype around Charlie McAvoy. Maybe I don't watch him enough. I know he's one of the top 10 defensemen in the National Hockey League, but I feel like Kris Letang does a lot more than McAvoy does. But that, again, might be because I watch Letang more often than I watch Charlie McAvoy. But I agree, this is a really good spot for him. You mentioned that there's not 5 defensemen ahead of him that are Canadian. There's only one, and that's Cale Makar. So, yeah, he's the second best and second ranked Canadian defenseman in the NHL. That's pretty high honors from NHL Network. And if you look at the top 5, it is McAvoy at 5, Fox at 4, Josi at 3, Hedman at 2, and Makar at 1. You got a bunch of Norris Trophy winners ahead of Kris Letang and then Charlie McAvoy. So I don't think you can be quite upset with this top 20 list. Not that many people do get that upset with this top 20 list. At least we don't. But it's a good spot for Kris Letang. He's getting his flowers on a national scale. And maybe this leads into a season where he can actually fight to get into that top 3 of Norris Trophy voting once again. I know it's hard to crack it, especially with 4 guys like we mentioned in the top that are usually going to be immediately put in there and have to do something horrible to be taken out. I think Letang is primed, sort of like a college football team. He's in a good position to start the season, which makes it that much easier to get into that top 3.
He is. And he's got more coming for him. We know he has these extra 6 years that he has to prove to still be one of the best to ever do it, especially with the Penguins. He's building, and let's be honest here, a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah,
if he can remain as good as he's been for at least 2 more, I think he's got it locked up. The 4 years after, I mean, come on, we've seen Hall of Famers have more than 4 bad years.
Yeah,
and where I'm not even saying he's gonna have 4 bad years, I'm saying this upcoming season, bare minimum, we know he's gonna be good. The season after that, maybe we take a flyer and figure things out, and then we go from there. But to still be in the top 10, let alone the top 20 of a list like this, says a lot. He's getting his national recognition, and I don't think he moves up any higher going forward, just because.
No, it's probably the highest we're going to see him.
Yeah, because we know Cale Makar is only going to get better. Roman Josi is going to stick around. Adam Fox is only going to get better. I think Charlie McAvoy is there because he is a capable defenseman who stepped in for overrated Zdeno Chara. I think that's why he's there. Let's just be honest. Big market, original 6 franchise. He's from the area, is he not?
I'm not sure where he's from. I know he's U.S. born. I'll look that up real quick for you.
A local kid, if that's true. He stepped in for one of the most, maybe not overrated here. He stepped in to a role that was left by a Hall of Famer. And he's been doing it decent enough because he took that spot the same year. I think Krug didn't leave the same year, but Krug left the year prior. And I thought that I lost another defenseman that's not coming to me right now. It was all of a sudden Charlie McAvoy's defense, and somehow Boston's still a playoff team. Yeah. They're going to give him his flowers for that.
Yeah, so Charlie McAvoy it depends on what you want to say, from the area. He was born in Long Beach, New York, but also went to school at Boston University, which is probably why you're thinking that. But yeah, no, Charlie McAvoy is beloved by the Boston Bruins faithful, and I think he's a really good, don't get me wrong, he is a top 10 NHL defenseman.
Yes.
But I do agree with you. It's funny you bring up Zdeno Chara when you mentioned even if Letang has 4 bad seasons, he's put enough on tape there he could be considered. Zdeno Chara's last however many seasons were not good National Hockey League seasons, and he's still considered potentially a first ballot Hall of Fame player. So, yeah, go ahead and start talking. My camera just completely fell off. Yeah, no, that's my point.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a top 10. Charlie McAvoy's definitely going to be a top 10 defenseman, regardless of whether I like it or not. But I think maybe if Letang was to make a jump over someone, it's going to be him. As for the rest of the list, we know everyone around the league is also getting better, plus more defensemen entering the league. You never know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
Rasmus Dahlin was in this top 20. If let's say the Buffalo Sabres not make the playoffs, but pop off for a good stretch and make a competition, make it decent, and it's because of him, you see him jump way up on that list. So, and I said this a while ago, defense is a changing position in the league. Everyone's starting to play like Bobby Orr, a little more than Nicholas Lindstrom, where it is not free for all, but there's much more of a offensive aspect put on these defenders these days.
Roman Josi scored 95 points last
year.
95 points. Like, if you would have told me that 7 years ago, I would have said, like, really? Like, defenseman scored 95 points? Come on now. And
I would have thought it was Cale Makar.
Well, 7 years ago, I didn't know who Cale Makar was. But yeah,
7 years ago. I thought you said last year.
Yeah, no, 7 years ago. But, like, if you look at this list, there's a lot of young guys that are going to move up. Moritz Seider is ranked 11th. He is going into his second year in the National Hockey League.
Yep.
Do we need to say anymore? Cale Makar is heading. I mean, he feels like he's been around for a long time. I think it's his 4th year. He's number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Fox, same position at number 4. I mean, Devon Taves is getting a lot of respect. He's at number 8. I mean, the Islanders look worse and worse for getting rid of him. Miro Heiskanen at 10. There's a lot of really young players. And then you have your John Carlsons, your Kris Letangs, who are still getting a lot of respect. But you look a couple years in the future, those guys are going to take that top 5 role, especially I think a guy like, Moritz Seider is going to be in the top 5 probably by next season.
Yeah.
So it's a position that is evolving. It is a position that you need to be able to score at an offensive clip if you want to get even in the sniffing distance of the Norris Trophy. So I think it's still something that Kris Letang could do coming off a career season where even though he only scored 10 goals, which is low for him, he had 58 assists for 68 points, career high. So you have to put a lot of respect on his name. That, and he plays 25 minutes a game plus. Sometimes he's up in the 30s, 31, 32 minutes, especially if it goes into extra time. So Kris Letang is still one of the premier defensemen in the league. NHL Network believes it. I believe it. You believe it. Most people with a brain still believe it, and you can chronicle that until the cows come home. But obviously the Pittsburgh Penguins believe it as well because they signed Letang to a 6-year contract, $6.1 million. I still think it's a bargain, especially early on in the deal. And as of right now, you're getting the 6th best defenseman for $6 million. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I think, once again, you got to just commend Ron Hextall for the job that he did on that contract, at least in the early stages.
At least in the early stages. And you know what? That's all we can ask for. 59 games away from 1,000. Well, with 6 years left on the deal, I think he's going to do it.
Well, yeah, eventually. But it'd be nice to see him get it this season because we know Malkin's going to get it this season. And it's always, let them both have their moment in the sun. And that way Malkin's going to be early in the year, about a month in. The Tangs will be late in the year. So let's spread out the celebrations, give us some things to talk about in every month. That's what I like to see.